All right, everybody, how's it going? Oh, I gotta turn my volume up. Well, tonight I am going to be starting to plan some industries on the train layout. This is something you can do at any time. I mean, you can plan your next layout while you're still building your current one, you know? It's one of those things you only get to do once, and yeah, you can change them, but it really has a lot to do with your track plan and the future of your whole layout. So I think it's a really fun and not very often type of thing you get to do. Um, so if you've watched some of my videos, you know I'm doing northern Wisconsin, and what I'd like to do is just kind of a little bit of everything, but make it feel real. The main thing is getting the feel of the area correct, because then when you walk into it and you see it, there's no question about where you are or where the layout's set. So, I think the first thing I've done this one other time, so this is not something I'm good at or know what I'm doing, but gonna kind of go through the process with you on what I'm going to do, whether it makes sense or not. And this is one of those things that, yeah, like you could plan your layout for a year. You know, you take your time, make sure it's right, and you could even be in the layout building stage and laying some track out and being like, "Yeah, that switch doesn't fit there, so it doesn't quite work with the industry you wanted to put in." So you can swap an industry out, whatever you want to do later on. But it's a fun little process and something you don't get to do very often. I think it's the foundation of your layout. Like, yeah, your track work is a big part of it, but the industries a lot of times, because we're limited to bench work, right? So the industries themselves will constrain your track work occasionally. Like this siding needs to make sense with where this industry needs to be for the size I want the industry. So it's a big decision choosing industries and the types of industries. What type of cars do you want to be bringing in and out the layout? Um, what railroad are you modeling? You know, there's a lot of decisions that will affect everything else about how your layout operates. So it's a big process, and it should definitely be well thought out. Um, so it just kind of starts the research, and you kind of always have an idea of like, oh, I'd really like to do a couple warehouses so I can swap box cars from one end of the layout to the other. Or if you like intermodal, you know, you don't have to have an intermodal yard, but you can have a nice staging yard. Um, I guess that's not an industry, but you know, it's you need to determine the railroad, what you're modeling. You need to have a really good grasp on the feel you want and how you want operations to go. Because yeah, if you only want to do intermodal and big grain trains and big coal trains, that's fine, but you know, you limit yourself on some of the cool industries that are possible. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go into Railfan Atlas, which I showed last time on the live stream. Um, we're going to start with this. We're going to take the photos off. So pick an area you want to model, okay? And I should know more about this line because I grew up in Wisconsin. I just never went up there and really saw what it was all about. Um, the area I like and would kind of want to portray on the layout is the tomahawk right here. This is Bradley, where it splits off. You go east and you go west. The Rhinelander, and this used to connect all the way um, to here, but it doesn't. So that's the little branch line. These are all branches, obviously. Main line's this orange one right here. So you come up from Stevens Point to Wausau. But I'm thinking I'm going to keep myself. I don't want to limit myself more than I have to because I want the feel. But the scenery is going to give me the feel. So what I want to do is is prototypical. You have to base something off the prototype to start with, right? You can't just make up everything. You can make up an industry, that's fine, but if your track design doesn't make sense, it's not going to feel real. So we're gonna kinda look from anywhere from Wausau up, and in the middle here is Bradley. We'll look this way, we'll look east. Bradley is interesting 'cause I think it's a really good junction point and something that I want on the way out. And I don't know if it used to be a complete Y, but it's kind of one of those little yards where it's just more like keep some engines at it, you got a little yard office, and you can swap some cars in and out, whatever. Um, and I don't know how they actually operate it. It's something I need to learn more of, but I don't know if there's a local that comes up, drops cars in this yard, and then I know they keep engines here, at least from what I've seen. So then we get into the real fan list part where you can look at pictures from the location. So obviously it used to be WC and CN, and then I think CN sold it off, so now it's Foxy, which Watco owns, and there's a bunch of Wisconsin Southern engines up there from what I can tell. But so here we got some kind of little shed here, and this looks like just a little small little yard, right? So that's obviously something to keep an eye on. That little shed's pretty cool. Okay, so if that's from Bradley, you got looks like there's a bigger yard office and this little maybe this the modern yard office over here. So that's a big spot that I want to do. Um, and what we should do is look at it with satellite view, and I am lost there. It's hard when you're looking at train lines and you're looking at roads. Okay, here's Bradley. Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3 main line. There's another. It's like 3 main tracks. I mean, this is one of those little yards you can almost model to scale, and not obviously not to scale that take up the whole container, but you can do all 3 tracks. You can model the way the tracks go, 'cause this is gets kinda interesting down here. So off this leg of the Y, it comes up to this line, okay? But then you can also bypass the yard with this little track, and this definitely looks newer. So I don't know when it was added or if it is newer, but it looks newer. So it's almost a complete yard bypass back to the main down here. So you can see there's a couple tank cars and maybe some Gons or some, um, pulpwood cars sitting there, and there's almost a little pulpwood yard here, something like that. Some kinda little yard, looks like it might be railroad related, so maybe that's more of this track's purpose is another little, track to put some cars in down the road. I don't know. All I need to do is call Matt, I'll know, but haven't gotten there yet. So this looks like that little block building. So anyway, there's just lots of little details to go into on that. So what I wanna do next, find some industries, and I have a couple in mind. WC had lots of boxcars, so I definitely want a place to bring boxcars to, and it's just I like spotting cars at warehouses, that sort of thing, in operations. Um, so I've already looked a little bit, but I haven't done much in depth. So what I do is just follow the line, and this is not gonna be the one to follow. Follow on Google Maps because that'll show us, um, it'll pop up with industries if they're linked, and then it'll also we can see the satellite view, right? So we're going east of Bradley, so just nice long runs. lots of lakes, and you kinda do focus a little bit closer to towns. Um, here oh, I think I missed one other one. Yeah, we'll start with this one here, Northwoods Distribution Services, which will be fairly fitting for the layout, name it the same thing. Okay, looks like a bunch of semi-trailers, and then we got 2 tracks, one outside, one that looks like it goes through the building. This would be a cool one to do fairly to scale, like, I'm not gonna fit, what, 3, 6, 12? If you can fit 24 boxcars in here, I'm not gonna do that, obviously. Oh, no, it does dead end inside. I'm not gonna mount 24 boxcar track here, okay? But let's just look and see how do we do. Okay, street view, very handy. Okay, oops. Can basically look at the industry as well as we can from here. There's a little road to get down there, probably for the railroad or, um, another access for this place. So they got their own little, switcher, what do you call them? Trackmobile. Okay, that's cool. We got obviously some derails, but that's a cool little warehouse. And it's simple, right? That's a cool, simple, realistic building to pull out. And I like the spacing between the main line and those, um, industry tracks there. Sometimes you get tracks that are too condensed and close together. So I think that's pretty cool to have in space like that. Um, yeah, just a real simple and it follows the main, so you're not having to do something weird with going way off to the side, right? Okay, that's cool. So that's an industry to mark down. Just take notes, and, uh, go through all your options, and you don't have to model any of these prototypically. Okay, write down ones you came up with so you can look them up later on, and if you like one detail about this place versus this place, kinda merge them together, whatever you wanna do. So if I didn't wanna do 2 tracks, I don't know if I wanna do 2 tracks or not, but it's an option, and I think it's cool to have more boxcar storage because you could be picking up and setting out cars here every day, if you had a little local job, which these are all kinda local jobs, but, um, whenever the train went this direction on the layout, whenever you're swinging past, either in or out, you pick up and set up, um, and that looks like they spot cars there, but that might be something that I don't want to miss out on. Maybe I want, as an operator, to spot cars, so let's just pretend this place on my layout doesn't have a trackmobile. Okay, we need to get out of this. Alright, so let's just keep going down the line, and, you see condensed areas of, buildings and stuff, you kinda zoom in a little bit, look closer. Yeah, if I didn't, I would've missed this place. ABX Innovative Packaging Solutions. 2 industries in a row that I wanna model for sure. I mean, I wanna model a warehouse for boxcars, and I wanna model a plastics place. And plastics cars are so lame and boring, but, um, I have terrible memories of working for Wisconsin Southern and having to find a plastics car in the middle of 3 tracks and having to pull it out, and not fun, but I always thought about making my operators suffer by having to pull 20 plastics cars to get to 1, and I think it'd just be perfect. And I don't know why that would be like, they maybe wanted a certain color of plastic that day for whatever they were building, but plastic places are cool, they're 2 simple tracks, there's no they don't have to be super close to the building. They have plastic tanks, 'cause I believe it's just all vacuum is how they pull the plastic pellets out of these cars. So, yeah, you get a bunch of silos. I guess let's see if we can get a view. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of silos. That's cool. So that's a nice little industry, and this can be a complete backdrop building, just, half inch wide, if that. Have the silos as the main focal point. Have some nice piping going over to your tracks to unload, you know, stuff like that. And plastic places are fairly new. A lot of them are really clean little spurs and nice concrete. That's what they all seem to be from what I can tell. At least the one up by Oshkosh is, but, some nice bumpers, which you don't even see that often. But, okay, so I wanna base some things off real life, right? I can if I name it ABX or not, I can name it something like ABX because if the logo looks like that and it's a similar name, like, it's a realistic industry, obviously, because this is a real one right here. And I like an industry like this 'cause it's spaced out. Like, you got a parking lot, you got cars parked in it. It's not all condensed, as many tracks as you can get in that one spot. This would be cool. Have the main line, and the main line is a little bit further away, but, yeah, I mean, you just kinda have this during this industry on the layout, you have it all tucked up to the front, have have the space between the tracks and the building. I think that would kinda really give it a good feel. So, let's see. Probably gonna get a lot of, like, old industries, stuff that doesn't exist anymore. Bunch of weaving tracks through town. What I really want to do is a co-op, and I think it's gonna be hard being this far north because you don't get a lot of rail-served co-ops because there's not as much farming, right? So, it's a lot more logging up here, there's not as many fields. So your little yard. This looks like their, sand car storage. So I wonder what we have for sand or something like that. What town is this now? Rhinelander. Okay. Been there plenty of times. I don't remember ever seeing a train. And I wonder if that's the end of the line. 'Cause this is starting to look a little shaky down here. I really wouldn't be surprised if that was the end of it. Let's see where Elk Atlas says. Yeah, it only goes a little bit past Rhinelander and then Brown's out of service. So yeah, we're looking at the map, it definitely looks like it's not used, and I don't think there's any more industries past there, but alright, so what I want to find is some kinda co-op. Co-op. Okay, you're gonna get gas stations and stuff like that. That's not Phillips. But if you go down here, obviously you can see trees, a lot less trees. So, this might be the area to look for some kind of farmers co-op that might be rail served. Okay, we got River Country Co-op store. River Country Co-op country store. Lots of country in that. Okay, and this is in Tomahawk? Or yeah, it's Tomahawk. No, it's Merrill. Merrill. So, we got some pretty cool track configuration here. We got this stub end track. Okay, probably used to continue, sure looks like it did. Might have been a siding or something, but now it's accessible from this switch, which is the innermost track. So it's which is accessible from this end, so might be one of those industries you have to switch from one direction only, right, which is a lot of them, but that kinda looks like the only track they might take cars in. The rest might be kind of either storage or small yard. Let's see where we can get a street view. Train tracks. This is pretty overgrown on that one, but those two look pretty used. Okay, it looks like fertilizer. This is generally the cow used for fertilizer, and then a lot of these smaller co-ops will order cars in, and then they'll just fill their fertilizer spreaders like that, or fertilizer trucks, or the farmers can come pick it up themselves. They'll just fill it directly or in the semis, whatever, right? Yeah, a lot of this looks unused still, but I mean, I'm not in northern Wisconsin. I'm not expecting to model some big grain elevator, right? I would like to. I got tons of grain cars sitting around, but fertilizer is a good second option, and then you can model some farm stuff. Here's a bunch of panels and wood chips they got there. So fertilizer spreaders would be cool. Just an old fallen apart steel building, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, if I really wanted to, I wanted to make some things up a little bit, I could put the original track in here and but I mean, what are they getting boxcars of, you know? Let's go down the street. So it looks like a little place with a nice little warehouse, right? So yeah, it's some kind of little elevator. A lot of these places will mix feed. They'll just bring feed in and then like chicken feed and stuff like that. They'll mix it themselves so they can sell it bagged for people. So yeah, river country co-op. And you know, if you do want to model a real place, perfect, right here. Try to get as square as you can to it. Screenshot. Now you literally have a sign you can print off and put on it, and it's accurate, right? All right. Lots of just cool buildings because it's just added on and added on and added on. And it's obviously one of the newer ones for the actual store itself. Yeah, same with that sign. So that's a neat little place. Can't really see anything train related here, but let's go back. I don't know that there's any more industries in Merrill, but we will look. I'm sorry if I'm making you dizzy. I'm a fast scanner. Let's see. No, it just kind of looks. Okay, so yeah, Merrill isn't quite where the junction is yet. But if we go down, so it comes down like this, goes through. I believe if we go down to Tomahawk, I know there's a bunch down there. No, we're Wausau already. We were in Tomahawk earlier. Never mind. Okay, here's another river country co-op. That one's got some bins, scale and some bins right next to some military stuff. Oh, yeah, on reserve. Yeah. Where are the train tracks? We lost them. But okay, go back to the fan atlas, right? If you want to find an industry, a lot of people take pictures of people switching, right? Okay, we were Merrill's south of Tomahawk, obviously, but there is some big stuff in Tomahawk. There's this Y, splits off the Tomahawk Railway. I don't know if it's actually operated separately. I couldn't tell you. Looks like it because otherwise it would be labeled that way still. 'Cause, I mean, this is already labeled Foxy, and that was only sold off a couple years ago. So let's see what we got for pictures here. So yeah, looks like what was Hey Wally, how's it going? You would know a bunch about up here too, wouldn't you? I did not. I didn't ever really want to be a rail fan much. So this is I looked at it on Google Maps. I think it was wood chips and pulpwood. So let's zoom out and see. Here we go. Okay, so it looped around right here, came down. Okay, Packaging Corporation of America. Yeah, pulpwood and sawdust. Lots of boxcars. So yeah, must be a full-blown paper mill, huh? Looks like it. Lots of steam. Yeah, paper mill. So whether you even model the actual paper mill itself, which is a cool model, but think about the real estate that thing would take up. You could just have a little spur line, go behind some trees, say an interchange with Tomahawk Railroad, right? Or just sending some pulpwood cars that way. So that's an option for another place for cars to go. Yeah, I think it's on yeah, Genesee and Wyoming sounds right. So they only operate this little line, huh? I mean, that has to be less than 5 miles, if I had to guess, just up through here and around. And then I'm wondering if they leave cars at the Y, or do they go down to the yard? Because there's this yard in Tomahawk with a whole bunch of cool track. There must be some old line coming up that they tore out that way. But yeah, it's possible to come down here and okay, Tomahawk Railway Warehouse, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Wally was correct. Thank you. So, yeah, it looks like and I don't know what they mean by warehouse, but a lot of times railroads just park engines in that kind of space. Looks like a nice building, though. Who knows? So, yeah, let's see. Guess we didn't really look in Tomahawk, we kinda skipped over it. So this is neat here. The old, was that C&W station, Wally? Kinda looks like that style to me. No, Milwaukee Road. It's the Hiawatha Trail. Alright, so what this was an old yeah, here you go. You're on it. Looks like it's probably yeah, okay, so instead of coming around like this, they used to go this way, and there was a diamond. But once it ended up being the same railroad, there's no use in having 5 separate lines for everything, right? What other industries are in Tomahawk? Wastewater place, does not have a track, kinda out of town now. Be nice if there was a steel place that got cars, but there's not. Used to be something here. What other industry could we put in the layout? So if we got one warehouse, one plastics place, and maybe part of a paper mill. I was also thinking instead of paper mill, just maybe a log yard, right, a pulpwood yard. Loading cars would be cooler than a paper mill to me, but, I don't like huge industries. I think they take up too much space, and then I like the rural running. I don't like the city scenes, and it's personal preference, but, you can take up a whole layout with one city if you wanted to model something accurately condensed, right? So if we do a pulpwood place, let me know what I'd search. If I search for lumber, it's just gonna be a lumber yard. Log transload, maybe. Took us to Illinois. Not what I wanted to do right now. I guess we're gonna have to follow some more lines. Let's go west of Bradley, and I'm not gonna. This is a long road of nothing right here. So let's zoom in the cord. Nothing. All right. Tripoli sounds familiar, but there's nothing. I have always wanted to do a little section of road following the train tracks and then having a couple crossings. And just one of those areas where you just kind of got one crossing after another. It's just that's cool to me. So that would be kind of fun. Maybe have a road in the on the front of the layout and do a scene like this where you got road comes in, curves, follows the tracks, a crossing, cross. This looks more like a railroad access point, but it's a little bit of a it's just a siding there. Okay, so you got crossing, crossing, crossing. That's cool. And then the road kind of veers off and you wouldn't see it on the layout anymore. That'd be a cool scene. So, like, you want to model something accurately to get your spacing for how far a road should or usually is off of train tracks. I mean, you can use the measuring tool on Google Earth, I believe. I think there's probably a few others you can measure with, but just if you put the tracks or the road too close to the track, it doesn't look right. And sometimes you can't tell quite what it is that doesn't look right, but you know something's not right. And a lot of times, it's just those scale things that where a road would never be that close to the tracks unless it's in town and they didn't have an option, right? So stuff like that. Here's a logging. If anybody's got industry ideas for this layout, so we got plastics, we got a warehouse, we got um, warehouse, and then maybe a pulpwood yard. That's kind of what we're looking for now. Trying to base some industries off the real thing, and I don't need to model it exactly, but um, it's good to have something to base it off of, right? So Apprentice is where they go up to Park Falls. Yeah. Okay. Actually, let's look at this once. Railfan Atlas makes things easier. Yeah, so it doesn't go past Apprentice anymore. That's out of service line. You can see what it would look like. Ooh, interesting. Why did they paint those like that? Interesting. Yeah, so all I'm doing right now is just research for industries, and then I get distracted, and then I have a million tabs open. Okay, so Apprentice is cool, you get a little Y, what used to be a Y, and they might still use it for things, but none of it exists anymore. Here's another out of service track, which I was wondering, is it actually out of service? Because it says Foxy on it, and yeah, this is a new picture from 2022. Um, but let's see what that place is, because that looks like a couple cool tracks, and they're opposite of the way you come into them. So that's pretty neat, pull down there and you have to shove out. Okay, so head down the Y. Okay, here's a pulpwood place. Let's see. These look like center beams. Okay, so it's a lumber. Oh, here it is. Sawmill. Just gotta read. It's that easy. Okay, so this would be cool because you have 2 tracks. You have incoming, pulpwood, okay, storage. This almost looks like a sprinkler area. Is that something to do? I feel like they keep it wet so it's easier to cut. I don't know how often they update it, but it already says Foxy on it. It's only been a few years, but for some reason it says it's brown and it says out of service. So if you click on it, if I could, I can't. Usually the brown ones say out of service, but they might have just mislabeled it because down here, obviously, this is tore out where it gets dotted. Um, but everything I've seen that's brown is out of service. Anyway, the cool thing about this is you got raw material in, finished products coming out. It's a processed product. It's been um, milled down to dimensional lumber. So you have it. That'd be a cool one. That'd be one worth doing. I either want to do a place that takes pulpwood or a place that like loads pulpwood. So a pulpwood yard that they took it off trucks, put in a yard, put on train cars. I think that'd be pretty cool. But this would actually be better because you have two types of cars in one, and that's something to look for too. Because like there aren't that many industries where you get more than one type of car generally, right? There probably are. I'm just not thinking clearly. But this would be a cool one because of the angle of the tracks, and you'd be prototypical if you got the main line up front and you run these tracks in. That one would be one to consider for sure. Because you don't have to know all this, but you can have log yard near this track, your unload track, and then you can have a couple buildings between it and some loaders and stuff bringing this material in. And then I could also send sawdust out. And I don't know what they do with sawdust here. It looks like maybe a bin there. And these are, oh yeah, these are um, sawdust cars right here because they have a little auger or something that goes across the tracks. At least that's what it looks like to me. I wonder if there's a road close by we can. Let's look at street view. So they're bringing logs in on trucks too. We're going the right way. And that's all we can go. That tells us nothing. It's a scale. This is probably for maybe for strapping. Maybe not a logger. Well, I think that's as close as we can get from the road. But some we could do. Okay, here's one more picture from a truck in the yard. Something you can do sometimes is the Beaver, Wisconsin Sawmill Incorporated. Just search it. Ooh. So if they have a full website, a lot of times they like to show what they have going on, and it's a big place. So they've got a place in Prentice, you got a place in Spencer, Seneca, Illinois, a couple in Michigan, and then was that New York? No, Mississippi. Okay, so Beaver Lumber is actually like their own brand of dimensional lumber. And this is just the deep research you could do if you really, I mean, you could make it up right now based on what we saw. You could say, yeah, 2 track, logs in, lumber out. Simple. Or maybe they don't need to take logs in on train cars. Maybe these are all unloaded from semis because they don't do that much. It's not a high volume place like a paper mill would be. So maybe these are just sawdust cars. But you could do both. You could have them bring in lumber or logs in and sawdust cars, out and lumber cars out. So you could do 3 cars in this place if you wanted to make a few things up. And I don't know that they don't take logs in by train. I mean, kind of makes sense that they would because they got this track right down here all the way to the end, and the log there is around the track. But that doesn't mean anything. It looks like these are, at least to me, you tell me, it looks like they have solid sides on them because that's shadow, right? Those look like sawdust cars to me. What do you guys think? I don't know what the inside of a sawdust car looks like, but obviously they're empty. But those don't look like they have bulkheads on the end. Oh, here's an even bigger. Here's where they load them. I thought they loaded them here, but that's the shadow from this pipe coming out. Here's where they load. So yeah, maybe they don't take log cars in. They just need this track down here to be able to shove these cars past. And that's a cool thing to even model 'cause a lot of these places they'll shove cars with a loader. So they got a loader sitting around, so they'll just push them. Anyway, we're on Beaver's website. The thing nowadays too is if they don't have someone on their website, a lot of times you can go to their Facebook page because they like to post what they're doing and what's showing customers what it looks like. Because people, I mean, it's not. I don't think that's huge for a sawmill, but a lot of times customers like to see what their process is like. Yeah, I don't see a Facebook. Anyway, that's a cool one. What else do we model? I know we go north, there's not a ton, but there's also more paper mills. Oops. Sometimes you gotta look at these places because a lot of times there's a little track, but not here. That's just a farm. That's a big old farm. Nice. That's United. Worm farm. Oh yeah, that's a nice place there. The worm people. That's one you might just want to keep to yourself. Being a worm farmer. I mean, it makes sense. People buy worms for fishing and to break down compost. But the worm guy, uh, let's see here. I don't know. Maybe, uh, you don't really haul dirt in train cars. I don't know. You could get one heck of a sawdust car full of worms, though. Maybe you keep them damp. Maybe I put them in a tank car. Good luck unloading them. A trout ranch. I think got some cool places up here. I know there's trout farms, but I never heard of a trout ranch. Free range trout. Here's a cool place. Yeah, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Just a row of logs that are brought in by semis, loaded on train cars. I mean, these train cars might go as far south as the next town, like that wouldn't make a huge lot of sense. But a lot of those log trucks, they're just trying to get those logs out of the woods as quick as they could. Yeah, clearing cars. There you go. So this is basically all we need. You got a nice log unloader, which I'd like to find a nice model of. The cool thing here is this stack is so narrow, you could actually model both sides of it. So you could have the log loader and logs on one side and then put them on the stack. I know a lot of transload places like that. People just model the logs against the wall, which is good and that's fine. The cool thing about log unloading and loading places is a lot of those tracks are curved coming in and they'll just stack the logs along the tracks, safe distance. But um, so it's kind of a really interesting little backdrop barrier you could build into it. But this place has one track. There's a two, one track, and it is a muddy track, or at least maybe bark covering the tracks, which is really cool. That'd be a fun one to model. So it looks like, yeah, they're just unloading. They're taking off the stack right here. Yeah, it would be a good scene divider if you had like a track that you want to hide somewhere, kind of some kind of staging track. I might have a staging track or two. Um, Basically, it's just gonna be one track for, say, cars going south, right? And then in between sections, pull those cars out, swap them out, whatever. And then next session, pull those cars out, and those are cars coming up to the interchange at Bradley. So I'm thinking about something like that. But yeah, that'd be a good one. We could have the track going into some trees and behind the logs, and you can see it. Park Falls. Getting close to the paper mill. Is this a track coming in there? It was. Maybe. Sure looked like it. Yeah, it sure looks like a track used to come right in here, but it's not there anymore. Yeah, 'cause I mean that this road may not have been there. The main highway may have gone through town a different way, but another lumber place. Those are some nice stacks there. Where is the paper mill? Is that not a rail served paper mill? I thought we were in Park Falls. Yeah, we are in Park Falls. Paper mills. Hmm. Are you doing any modeling now, Wally? I haven't done much for a while, but I finally have some time. Not time, but I just really want to again. And I guess that wasn't a real served place. Let's go back to this and see. Flambeau papers. That's neat. That's a sweet paint scheme. Brown, cream, and orange. Oh, that's the 70s or 60s at least. These are wood chip cars. So you got the boarded up halfway and blow it in. Yeah, I'd say that's a nice engine. Okay, so that's how service. That's what I was looking at on Google Maps here because I saw this log yard. It looks like a log yard, and there's still some logs here, right? But that place doesn't exist anymore. I don't know how long ago that was, but I remember being in Park Falls and it smelled like a paper mill. This looks like something still here. Doesn't tell me what it is. Let's see. Pulp and paper. Okay. I wonder where they get their stuff at. Tracks right here. Oh, I missed that. We had 2 tracks going in, just 1 now. That doesn't look like it's in service to me, but I don't see where they're getting their pulpwood in. Who knows? How much further does this go now? Do we still go to where is it? Butternut we go to still. Let's look in Butternut. Looks like we just got a little, that doesn't look in service, but nice little bridge. That'd be cool to see what it looks like if we can through the trees. Nope, summertime picture. So really nothing here. There's a feed store. Ooh, that might be the one we want. Oops. That's cool because it basically, what did I do? I guess the backside of it. We had jumped too far. Got a mural. Maybe an old little freight house there. No, it's just part of the co-op. Either way, this place, yeah, let's go across the street here. Doesn't look like they take cars. They definitely used to. But like, if you want to model it, model it. It could be a place that eventually in the future does take cars. WC was all about getting people served. So here's fertilizer spreader. We could do a little fertilizer transload place. Just have that little auger or conveyor belt, whatever. But anyway, guys, I think there's not much more to it. This is one of those boring things that you're only excited about if you're doing it for yourself. So really, there's not much to it. You gotta just do what makes sense in terms of. Oops, I want to go full screen. Nope. There. It's just make sense of it in your head. Do what you want, and a lot of your layout is riding on what industries you choose. Okay, because what cars are going to be running, what types of trains, how often you're running trains, is a lot determined on what industries you have. So pick stuff that you like, pick stuff that's realistic, and whatever. So I appreciate everybody watching today. Have a good night, and we'll see you in the next one.